What I wish to share with you today is something that ate on me through the night, last night, after watching the travesty of the Blasey Ford accusations against Kavanaugh. And as you all know, I'm not wild about Kavanaugh, but my impression of him went up a great deal yesterday as he defended himself, and I have to give him great credit for that. He is certainly well qualified, and there's no reason to deny him if these charges are not valid. Having looked at the charges, having seen what the process is, having watched what the Democrats and Republicans claimed, it is crazy not to approve him, and here's why. The claim against him, the sexual assault claim against him, the only one that has any marginal validity at all, is the one by Blasey Ford. And she claims that 36 years ago he tossed her on the bed, climbed onto her, and attempted to get her clothes off in a drunken stupor with a buddy that was with him. She claimed that there were 4 witnesses. All 4 witnesses have denied it. All 4 witnesses signed sworn affidavits subject to perjury, which is about a 10-year prison term for if they lied, saying that there was no such activity, that there was no such event, and that nothing occurred on that time. There are people who claim that obviously Ford would not come forward because there was nothing in it for her. There was no possibility that she would benefit, and therefore she should be believed. And I'll go into the she should be believed thing more in a moment. What the downside of that is, of course, is that's not true. First of all, she is a radical lib, a left libber, an alt libber. I will not call her a progressive. That is a lie. With her alt-lib buddies, she is a wild, or was a wild, Hillary Clinton proponent. She is an active Me Too'er, apparently, or at least was or will be. She is linked, family linked, and personally linked to the CIA. She has connections that her father went back perhaps 30 or 40 years to the CIA, perhaps to even when she was in high school herself. And she has done psychological training for the CIA, at least as it appears, in the university in California. So she has lots of linkage there and lots of reasons. And the GoFundMe site, which at the very least will give her a substantial amount of money, one of the GoFundMe sites I looked at had had over 200,000 in it. One had 135,000 in it. Another one had 50,000. There may have been other GoFundMe sites, and that doesn't prevent somebody like Soros, who's also linked to some of the groups that she has had, with which she has had association, from writing a check for $500,000 or $250,000 or anything else and simply handing it to her. So all of those things are possible. It is likely she'll end up with a book deal, a speaking tour, several $100,000 at least, and be the darling of the California alt-lib, radical lib society in California. So she has no benefit? I don't think so. It's clear from her testimony yesterday and from her body language, from her vocal fry. Well, I was just, my vocal fry. I've got problems talking because I'm so emotionally upset. Was play acted. It was apparent to others besides me, people much better versed in body language. None of the questions that were asked, this Mitchell lady that examined her was a pretty soft patsy, but what was pointed out in some of the other websites, some of the other channels, is that she softened the lady up and she got her to say what she needed her to say, which is that She had significant inconsistencies, both in her own personal conduct about flying and some other things. There were things that she could and could not remember, and suddenly she remembered some things that she didn't remember earlier. She didn't know whether she had paid for or somebody else had paid for the lie detector test. Obviously, it was all fed through the process. And of course, Dianne Feinstein held that since the end of July, which is the other huge problem having to do with this thing, is that all of these Democrats are now saying, gee, if we just had an FBI investigation, if we just had a full vetting of this, if we just had all the witnesses subject to oath and being cross-examined by the FBI, we wouldn't have any problems. Well, number one, everybody swore, the other four witnesses swore under oath, under perjury, unequivocally that the event did not happen and that there was no such event and that Kavanaugh wasn't involved and there was no rape attempt or sexual assault attempt or even wrestling on a bed. I don't know how much more unequivocal you could get than that. If an FBI agent came to Mark, Butcher or whatever, and said, tell me what you know. And he said, well, here's my affidavit. This is exactly everything I know. If nothing happened, if there was a non-event, if nobody showed up, what more can you say than it didn't happen? Well, it just simply didn't happen. Well, did he throw on the bed? It didn't happen. Did you guys turn the music up? It didn't happen. Did you guys get really drunk? There was no party. We didn't get drunk. She wasn't there. How many denials do you need? And her girlfriend also denied it, and a girlfriend apparently who is a concurrent friend. All right, so now let's move to the other part of this, and this is what really upset me more than anything else, and that is, apart from all of this crap about having an investigation, apart from giving validity to a claim that was clearly bogus and specious and was in any case incapable of being validated, apart from the fact that the Democrats sat on it for 6 weeks and said nothing, did not even have a clandestine or privacy in doing a full investigation, did not disclose it to Grassley or anybody else, and then leaked it when it looked like they were going to fail in getting rid of Kavanaugh. All of those things are despicable, and Dianne Feinstein and or her office is liable if they leaked her private matter. Now, there are some on my website, on my channel, who say, well, she obviously intended to testify all the way through, and so it wasn't being forced, being outed by it because she had the lie detector test, etc., etc. But I would say that would be Feinstein checking her background and making sure that she had her ducks in a row in case she decided to use it. So I don't really fault Ford for not for doing those kinds of things. She obviously was not the activator. She was not the proponent of the lie detector test, etc. But there are lots of other problems with her. Now, what is at a different level is that these people on this committee are supposed to be the judicial legal specialists of the United States Senate. These people, Republican and Democrat, are creamed off of all of the Senate members in order to sit on a very important committee, especially for appointments and for approval of judicial, both district, appellate, and Supreme Court level approvals for confirmation of nominees. And in that setting, this is what really rags me, is that we've got Kamala Harris, we've got Amy Klobuchar, and Richard bum-ass Blumenthal, who not only are attorneys, but Kamala is a former Attorney General of California, not for 3 months, not for an appointment, but for 6 years. Amy is the former county attorney of Hennepin County in Minnesota, and she was there for 8 years. And Blumenthal, Mr. Dumbass, was the Attorney General of Connecticut. Can you be any more embarrassed than this, Connecticut? Can you be? For 10 years. Then you've got Sheldon Whitehouse, that I did not include, who was not quite as stupid as the other ones. Sheldon Whitehouse, who's the former Attorney General of Rhode Island and was the United States Attorney of the District of Rhode Island. He was the Attorney General for 4 years and a U.S. Attorney for District for 5 years. Then you've got Corey Anthony Booker, Booker Butt, Mr. Big Mouth, the goofball, who graduated from Yale University Law School and has a Stanford University undergrad. I mean, he ought to be smart enough to know what he's doing, right? And then you've got Mazie Kaiko Hirono, born in Japan, older even than I am, ought to know better. Got her Georgetown University JD 800 years ago. And these people, the three big ones, these people, for the most part, said, as Hirono quoted, well, I believe her. She deserves to be heard. And what is more than that? She deserves to be believed. Now, let me tell you something. If there is any place in the United States which holds to the rule of law that is constitutionally provided and where there are all kinds of protections against being arrested without probable cause, by being notified of the charges against you, of having the right to an attorney, having the right to face your accusers, having the right to know what the charges are, having the right to cross-examine the various accusers, having the right to a jury, etc. This is admittedly not a jury trial matter, but tell me that this hearing and that the charges against this man were less important than a misdemeanor traffic offense that could have been held in the JP office, where if on appeal would be entitled to a jury, where for misdemeanor marijuana charge, where a person would be entitled to a jury. And this person is not only not entitled to a jury, half the members of the jury, less one, half the members of the jury basically said before they ever, either of them appeared, either Ford or Kavanaugh appeared, that they believed the charging party. They believed the alleged victim before they heard her testify, before they heard her open her mouth, before they considered any witness testimony from anyone else, from any rebuttal witnesses, before they heard cross-examination, before they heard the response and defense of Kavanaugh, before even as it relates to Schumer and some others, before even the hearings were held, they were going to rule and find against Kavanaugh. It is inconceivable to me that any Senate committee would act that way prior to having the hearings, much less the Judiciary Committee, and much less people who held positions of authority in their states as the Attorney General. The Attorney General in these states, let me tell you what it is. It's the chief prosecutor for that state. It is the person who upholds criminal laws, civil laws, administrative violations, looks into election laws and others, and a prosecutor, any prosecutor at any level, is charged with the ethical responsibility of finding the truth, not of convicting people, not of getting a conviction against a person at all costs. They are not only charged with finding the truth ethically and following on the truth ethically, they are obligated to give any mitigating information, testimony, documentation that would help protect the defendant from being found guilty. So they not only have a positive duty of finding the truth, they have an even greater positive duty of disclosing anything that would break the case down, as would in any responsible judicial hearing on confirmation of a person from the Senate to the highest court in the land. Why would we not adhere to the standards, the minimal standards that these people were ethically obligated to maintain in their own states as prosecutors, as the chief prosecutors of their own states? And what I say to you in California, what I say to you in Minnesota, what I say to you, especially with the idiot from Connecticut, my God, how do you separate him out? And with Sheldon Whitehouse, and with Booker, and with Hirono, these are people all with law degrees. These are people that all know better. These are people who should, at the very least, have said, well, I'm dubious of Kavanaugh. Fair enough. I'm dubious of anybody that served in the Bush administration. Fair enough. I am too. I really want to hear what he has to say, and I especially want to question him with respect to the rights of corporations, to the expansion of the executive powers, to the extent that he would engage in military powers, to the extent that he has felt that extensive interrogation processes ought to be allowed, and dozens of other things, including the abortion and the right of mothers and the right of privacy and the protection of the body and environmental laws and a bunch of other things. Nobody has a problem with a United States senator saying, I am dubious about this person's qualifications as they look at various areas of law. But to say we're going to get rid of him, we're going to vote him down, we don't even need to hear a word he has to say. And not only that, if somebody shows up with some kind of specious, half-assed, poorly protected, poorly provided, non-authenticated charge against him, we are going to find for a victim before we hear anybody talk about it, and with total disregard for everybody else that was allegedly at the party that the victim claimed to have occurred. How can that possibly be? Is there anybody in his right mind that would do that? And let me go one step further. And I think that this is a valid comment. First of all, number one, to anybody in Hawaii, pay attention. Number two, to anybody in California, Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and wherever Mr. Booker is from, Massachusetts, I guess. Anytime that somebody says that a heterosexual male is presumed to be guilty by mere virtue of the fact that someone charged them or complained against them, without giving that person the right to defend himself, to face his accusers, to have an attorney, to present his own witnesses, to provide alibi, or anything else, to do that is a fundamental violation of our Constitution, the Constitution that they are sworn on the Bible to uphold. How can that be? So let me close out with this. How can you say any more, right? How can you say any more? How crazy could this become? We need people who, no matter what their disposition is, look at things with a singular measure of objectivity. And to have a setting in which people charged with the highest responsibility in this country of choosing and selecting, giving advice and consent to the placement of an associate or chief justice in the United States Supreme Court who cannot display de minimis objectivity is a travesty. It is a shame. It is a crime. And you people in those respective states should pay attention. And number two, let me say to you, any right-thinking woman who knows that her husband, her son, her brother, her parents, her dad could be charged with with some kind of sexual charge, and certainly any man, any heterosexual or homosexual man for that matter, who could be charged with and presumed to be guilty, should never vote for any of these people. They don't hold your interest in mind, and you should know that right up front. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. This makes me angry because I have the right as an American citizen to have people in the positions of authority minimally respond to, give respect to the United States Constitution and the rights of us as individual citizens. Thanks.